Welcome to our nightly story time, dear friends. As the world outside grows still and quiet, we're about to enter a realm where anything is possible and dreams come to life. Snuggle down into your bed, feel the comfort of your favorite stuffed animal or blanket, and let your mind drift like a feather on a gentle breeze. The story we're about to explore, Moonlit Melodies, is like a treasure chest waiting to be opened. So, with hearts full of wonder and eyes sparkling with excitement, let's begin our journey into a world of imagination. The grand piano stood silent in the corner of Eliza's dimly lit living room, its polished ebony surface reflecting slivers of moonlight that crept through the partially drawn curtains. Eliza sat at her desk, fingers hovering over her laptop's keyboard, willing the words to come. But, like so many nights before, the cursor blinked mockingly on the empty page. With a frustrated sigh, she pushed away from the desk and padded across the hardwood floor. Her bare feet made no sound as she approached the piano, her constant companion through countless sleepless nights. As a novelist suffering from a seemingly endless bout of writer's block, Eliza had found solace in music when words failed her. She settled onto the bench, running her fingers lightly over the cool ivory keys. Outside, clouds parted, allowing the full moon to bathe the room in an ethereal glow. Eliza closed her eyes and began to play. The melody started soft and hesitant, like the first drops of rain before a storm. Gradually, it swelled, filling the room with haunting arpeggios and thunderous chords. Eliza lost herself in the music, her fingers dancing across the keys with a life of their own. She didn't notice the first shimmer in the air, a faint disturbance like heat rising from sun-baked asphalt. As the music reached a crescendo, the shimmer coalesced into a translucent figure, a woman in a flowing gown that seemed to be woven from moonbeams. The spectral woman swayed to the music, her movements fluid and graceful. She was joined by others, men and women in various styles of dress from different eras, all with the same otherworldly, translucent quality. They twirled and dipped, an ghostly audience entranced by Eliza's impromptu concert. It wasn't until Eliza opened her eyes, the final notes fading into silence, that she noticed her unusual audience. She gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as she took in the impossible scene before her. The spirits regarded her with curiosity, seemingly as surprised by her ability to see them as she was by their presence. For a long moment, no one moved. Finally, the woman in the moonbeam dress stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "It has been so long since we've heard music like that. Please, won't you play again?" Eliza's mind raced, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Was she dreaming? Had she finally cracked under the pressure of her writer's block? But the piano keys felt solid beneath her fingertips, and the expectant gazes of the spirits seemed all too real. "Who? What are you?" Eliza managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. The moonbeam woman smiled, a sad, wistful expression. "We're the in-between," she explained. "You're neither fully here nor there, bound to this world by unfinished business or lingering regrets, yet unable to fully manifest except on nights when the moon is full and music calls to us." Another spirit, a man in what looked like a 1920s suit, chimed in. "It's been decades since anyone in this building has played music that could summon us. We've been waiting, hoping." Eliza's initial fear began to fade, replaced by an overwhelming sense of wonder. As a writer, she had always believed in the power of stories to bridge worlds. Now it seemed, music held a similar magic. "What happens if I play again?" she asked, her fingers already itching to return to the keys. The spirits exchanged glances, a ripple of excitement passing through their ethereal forms. The Moonbeam Woman spoke again. For a brief time, while the music lasts, we can remember, feel, almost live again. It's everything to us. Without another word, Eliza turned back to the piano. This time, when she began to play, she was acutely aware of her audience. She poured every emotion she could muster into the music. Joy, sorrow, longing, hope. The spirits began to dance once more, but now Eliza could see the changes in them. Colors bloomed across their translucent forms. The Moonbeam Woman's dress shimmered with hues of lavender and silver. The 1920s man's suit took on a rich, deep blue. As they twirled and swayed, their movements became more solid, more real. Eliza played for what felt like hours, lost in a world of music and magic. She wove melodies for each spirit, watching in awe as their stories seemed to come alive in the notes. A young soldier, barely more than a boy, found peace as she played a gentle lullaby. An elderly woman smiled as a jaunty ragtime tune brought back memories of her youth. As the night wore on, Eliza began to feel a strange connection to these lost souls. Their joy, their pain, their unfinished stories. All of it flowed through her and into the music. And as she played, she felt the fog of her writer's block beginning to lift. Stories started to form in her mind, snippets of plots and characters inspired by the spirits around her. She saw a young woman in the 1800s, torn between duty and love. A jazz musician in the 1960s, struggling to make his mark on the world. A modern-day ghost hunter, unaware that the spirit she sought was her own long-lost twin. When the first light of dawn began to creep into the room, Eliza's fingers finally stilled on the keys. The spirits had grown fainter as she played, and now they were little more than whispers in the air. The Moonbeam Woman approached the piano one last time. "Thank you," she said, her voice fading like mist in the morning sun. "You've given us a gift beyond measure. We'll be waiting for the next full moon." And then they were gone, leaving Eliza alone in her living room, the piano keys warm beneath her fingers. For a moment, she sat in stunned silence, trying to process everything that had happened. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. She rose from the piano bench and walked back to her desk. This time, when she sat down in front of her laptop, the words flowed like water. She wrote about music that could touch the souls of the dead, about a pianist who became a bridge between worlds. She wrote about love that transcended time, regrets that lingered beyond the grave, and the power of art to bring healing to the living and the dead alike. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Eliza's novel took shape, a story unlike anything she had ever written before. But more than that, her life took on a new rhythm. By day, she wrote, pouring the inspiration from her ghostly encounters onto the page. And on full moon nights, she played. Word spread in the spirit world. Each month, more of the in-between would gather in Eliza's living room, drawn by the promise of music that could make them feel alive again. And each time, Eliza would listen to their stories, weaving them into melodies that allowed the spirits a few precious hours of remembrance and joy. She never told anyone about her unusual nocturnal concerts. Who would believe her? But sometimes, on quiet afternoons, she would catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of her eye. A shimmer in the air, a faint whisper of music. Little reminders that she was not alone, that her music had forged a connection to something beyond the realm of the living. As she finished her novel, Eliza realized that she had found her true calling. She was more than just a writer now. She was a keeper of stories, a guardian of memories, a musician who played for an audience that straddled the line between this world and the next. On the night of her book's publication, a particularly bright full moon hung in the sky. Eliza sat down at her piano, fingers poised over the keys. As the first notes rang out, filling the room with their haunting melody, she smiled. The shimmers began to appear, spirits taking form in the moonlit room. But this time, Eliza was ready. She had composed a special piece just for this night, a symphony that told not only their stories, but her own as well. As she played, weaving together themes of loss, discovery, and the enduring power of art, she felt a sense of completion. The moonbeam woman materialized beside the piano, more vibrant than Eliza had ever seen her. "You found your purpose," she said, her voice filled with pride and a touch of bittersweet joy. Eliza nodded, her fingers never faltering on the keys. "And you found your voice," she replied. "As long as there's music, as long as there are stories to be told, you'll never truly be gone." As the spirits danced around her, their forms shimmering between opacity and transparency, Eliza realized that she was no longer afraid of silence or empty pages. She had found a well of inspiration that would never run dry, a calling that bridged the gap between life and death, reality and fantasy. The music swelled, filling every corner of the room, spilling out into the night. And in that moment, as the living and the dead swayed together in perfect harmony, Eliza knew that she had finally written the story she was always meant to tell, not just on paper, but in the very fabric of existence itself. When the sun rose the next morning, Eliza sat at her desk, a contented smile on her face. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, capturing the magic of the night in words that seemed to glow on the screen. She had once feared that she had lost her ability to tell stories. Now she knew the truth. She had simply been waiting for the right audience. As she wrote, she could almost hear the faint strains of piano music in the air, a gentle reminder of the world she now straddled. Outside her window, the moon had faded from view, but its magic lingered, a promise of more stories, more music, more nights filled with moonlit melodies. Eliza paused for a moment, looking at the piano in the corner of the room. In the bright light of day, it looked ordinary, just a well-loved instrument, nothing more. But she knew better. That piano was a portal, a bridge, a key to unlocking mysteries she had only begun to explore. With a soft laugh, she turned back to her writing. There were so many stories left to tell, so many melodies yet to be played. And somewhere, in the space between worlds, a group of spirits waited eagerly for the next full moon, for the next chance to dance to the music that made them feel alive once more. Eliza's fingers resumed their dance across the keyboard, weaving words like notes in a grand composition. She wrote of moonlight and music, of love that transcended death, of the power of art to heal wounds both seen and unseen. And with every word, every sentence, every page, she felt herself growing stronger, more connected to the twin worlds she now called home. The novel she had struggled with for so long was finished, but Eliza knew it was only the beginning. She had been given a gift, a glimpse into a world beyond the veil, and with it came a responsibility to play, to write, to remember, to help others find their way home, whether that home was in this world or the next. As the day wore on, Eliza found herself glancing more and more frequently at the piano. The next full moon was weeks away, but she could almost swear she saw faint shimmers in the air around the instrument, as if her ghostly audience couldn't bear to stay away. With a smile, she saved her work and stood, stretching muscles stiff from hours of writing. Then, drawn by an irresistible force, she made her way to the piano. As she sat down, running her fingers lightly over the keys, she felt a familiar thrill of anticipation. Just a little practice, she murmured to herself, and to any spirits that might be listening. A warm-up for our next performance. And as the first notes filled the air, soft and sweet in the afternoon sunlight, Eliza closed her eyes and let the music carry her away. In her mind, she could see them all. The moonbeam woman, the 1920s gentleman, the young soldier, and all the others who had shared their stories with her. They were waiting, just out of sight, for the next full moon to bring them together once more. But for now, in this moment, it was just Eliza and her piano, weaving melodies that danced on the edge of two worlds. And as she played, she knew with absolute certainty that she would never suffer from writer's block again. Not when she had a whole universe of stories quite literally at her fingertips. The music swelled, joyous and triumphant. A celebration of life, death, and everything in between. And somewhere, just beyond the veil, a chorus of ghostly voices joined in, harmonizing with the piano in a song that only Eliza could hear. It was, she thought with a smile, the perfect ending to one story, and the perfect beginning to countless more.